Welcome to the Action Over Ideas podcast. Most practice owners don't have an ideas problem, they have an execution problem. This show is for the chiropractors and health practice owners who are done planning and ready to move. Each episode, Billy and Chris take the conversations happening in practices right now and turn them into clear, actionable decisions. Teams, systems, growth. The moves most owners know they need to make but keep avoiding, delaying, or overthinking. No more waiting for the perfect plan. Decisions first, results follow. Let's get started. Hello, everyone, and welcome to Action Over Ideas podcast. G'day, Chris.
Hey, Billy. Good to be here again. Super
Um,
excited.
Absolutely. I can't wait to focus on helping chiropractors with their next logical steps, helping them to implement over procrastination, and then making sure that they take more action steps rather than just to stew over their ideas in their mind. So let's head into episode 2. What's episode 2 about, Chris?
Episode 2. Oh, this is a good one. I've got a personal passion for this one. It's the topics around associates who think like owners, or can even put it as how do we get our teams to begin to think like an owner? And this is something that I come across a lot, and it really separates the practices that are excelling and moving forwards, but also having fun and enjoying what they do as well. A business can grow very quickly, but if the team burns out or they're not enjoying it, that has a big effect on the bottom line as well.
Yeah,
So,
yeah.
yeah, I'm very interested to get stuck into this topic.
Well, just before we start, a quick question, okay?
Yeah.
Like in your experience with recruiting for, both the associates, but also recruiting on the other side of like a business owner wanting to hire someone, are you finding that the let's just say an associate, and let's just talk about maybe someone that hasn't been out for a very long time,
Yep.
are they having that sort of mindset around like, oh, well, I'm just the employee, and like, that I want a job that just allows me to clock in and clock off, and then that's it. Versus how many of your applicants kind of also have that sort of mindset around, oh, look, it's not just a 9 to 5, it really is also like I'm a business owner. Like even though I'm building a practice and it's taking over a business, it's still a business within a business.
Not many.
Okay.
That's my answer at the moment.
Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah,
And
yeah.
this is something I'm trying to inspire
Mm.
into the new grads or associates that do want to do really well is you have to take it on like it is your own business and contribute 100% to it, and then find an owner who wants to do the same. And they've created a great foundation to do that.
Yeah.
And so the associates within their first 2 years that are kicking their goals, enjoying what they do, and really loving it are the
Mm.
ones that think more like, hey, I'm responsible for what happens within the four walls. And they've done the work to
Yeah.
find an owner who
Yeah.
appreciates it and is there to help them. They're not
Yeah.
they're not in an associateship where they are technically just running it themselves.
Mm.
Um, they're in an associateship that they are thinking like that, but the owner's right there.
Yeah.
They're there to
Yeah.
support. They're there to, hey, do it this way. In my 10 years of experience, I made all the mistakes over here. Make sure you
Mm.
change this. And that is setting apart the difference in the first 2 years, but even from 2 to 10 years as
Yeah.
well.
Yeah.
Yeah, huge.
It starts early on as well. Like I'm very fortunate to have the opportunity to teach the students at the ACC, the Australian Chiropractic College here in Adelaide.
Amazing.
And one of the things that I really try and get across to them from the get-go, and that is that regardless of whether you become an associate or you start your own business or you become a locum, whatever it is, right? I think it's imperative for you to have an understanding that in any of those roles, okay, that you should be a business owner or have that understanding of what needs to happen to be successful, right? So,
Yeah.
because when people are detached, a good example would be, and you probably see this, it's like, oh, like every week, like that percentage just goes to the owner, it's like, I could be making that percentage, and look,
I hear that all the time.
I'm generalizing, but that's definitely a conversation that does happen, or like a statement that happens, that
Definitely.
occurs frequently. And from that, like I can understand there are situations where people just are not the right fit or things are not
Yeah.
going well for them. But by and large, it's important for anyone to understand that that percentage isn't like a zero-sum game, meaning it's not like that percentage just goes straight into, the wallet of the owner. There are expenses. I mean, there's the expenses of the lights and the electricity, water, there's the rent, there's the staff, there's everything that involved with the cost of having a business as well as the employee. So, that's one of the kind of like, run that past you. What are your thoughts around that?
Yeah. If I had a dollar for every time I heard that, I'd be a millionaire, that's for sure.
Yeah.
It's a really tough conversation because, as you say, in some circumstances, maybe the associate has a right to be questioning it. I'm trying to lean more towards that in a great setup. The there's a lot that goes on behind the scenes with running a business. And if you put aside all of the money side of it and running costs, it's even just the risk.
Mm.
I'm explaining to associates that there's a big difference being an owner going, well, if you don't turn up, if you don't keep the lights on, then that business is not going to run versus being an associate where you're just focused on maybe adjusting or
Yeah.
seeing the patients.
Yeah.
That there is worth thousands of dollars just there. And I'm
Yeah.
trying to, because I'm in the middle, I'm bridging the gap, as I always say, Billy. I'm
Yeah.
I'm
Yeah.
trying to show them that you should find an associateship where, yes, if you're giving 60% to the owner, right, a lot of that is going to overheads, et cetera, et cetera.
Mm.
But there should be support there and there should be a great culture that you can be a part of. But don't expect to have, all this money just sitting there straight away. Because
Yeah.
you've got to work on your skills. There's heaps of mistakes that you make as well. And
Yeah.
if we come from the practice owner side of things, and all the practice owners listening will definitely agree with this, it can cost a lot for bringing on an associate in the
Yeah.
mistakes and the extra marketing and the team layout and the salaries. It is a risk for
Yeah.
the
Yeah.
owners, and it needs to be set up so that both parties win. I'm obsessed on
Yeah.
that
One of
topic.
my early mentors when I was actually studying at MIT was
Yeah.
the wonderful Charlie Ward, and he was really adamant around the fact that, look, if you put a 200 patient a week chiropractor into a 50 patient a week practice very, very quickly, or very, very smoothly, they'll be able to grow and develop that practice into a 200 a week. And
Yes.
the opposite happens. Like, you put a 50 patient a week chiropractor into a 200 patient a week practice, and it will then go to 50. And I think that's comes back to some of the not only the challenges, but I guess the fear of owners, because, and especially, like, there are absolutely positions, and that you would know this. There are positions where that's open and there's a patient base and a good patient base, and they're hiring someone to take over that patient base, but it's no guarantee that that person's going to come in and be able to, connect with the people that used to be there, to be able to keep those numbers and to grow those numbers. And there's that element of there's that sort of disconnect when it comes to, those things. And I think that as we move forward with our discussion, like, we'll sort of find out some of the keys to that. So let's open up the first thing around this area, and that is, through your experience, give us your story, and in terms of what do you see good traits of being a good associate, or from your experience, what are your case studies of being a great associate?
Yeah, great question. So, my number one that I share to every associate, but also to practice owners when they're looking to hire, is open to learning.
Mm.
It's number one. Open to learning is, from what I see, the most important because an associate should be joining a practice to learn. And I always say to associates that if you join a practice that the owner has 10 years experience, done this seminar, done that seminar, you can tap into that for free. That's a part of you being there. You can accelerate your career. But as long as you join somewhere that you are open to learning. And then from the practice owner point of view, and for the ones listening here today, how stressful and frustrating is it that when you hire an associate, you're trying to teach them XYZ? Maybe it's how you do your initial consultation, and they're not listening
Mm.
and they're saying no to all these things that you're trying to teach them. And then your day to day ends up being trying to convince your own associate to follow these things, and that consumes your energy.
Yeah.
And this is a massive difference between doing a recruitment process correctly as well as you want to bring people on that go, oh, wow, Billy, I love what you do here. I want to learn it. I may not copy you 100%, but for
Mm.
the first 6 months, please like share with me and I'm going to go implement it.
Yeah.
So open to learning is critical.
Yeah.
The second one is, and this has got to do with the topic of today, thinking
Mm.
like an owner, but being proactive is what I say. If you're an associate and there's things that need to be done, there's little problems that you see within the practice. If you view it as, hey, if I was owning this, what would I do? And you go out and do these things, you're going to get more rewards. It's like the more you give, more you get more
Yeah.
scenario. If you have joined a great practice where the owner values you, then when you do these things, they're going to give back in some sort of way. And it happens vice versa as well. If your
Mm.
owner's doing amazing things for you, then you should step up and help them out when things don't go well too. So this is what I call like a fair exchange. We want to make sure that it's going both ways. I'm very big on that. You know, you can't just have one person winning the entire time. If you create the success where people come together, that's less fighting, less interpersonal issues, and more growth for both.
Mm. Yeah.
Um, and those two are the ones I recommend the most when it comes to being a great associate. But the third one is just getting ready to be challenged. That's another thing I say to new
Yeah.
grads and associates. It's not easy. It's not easy. It doesn't matter if you find the best practice in Australia, you're still going to be challenged because at the end of the day, you've never had to do it before as a
Mm.
student. And as an associate, you're joining a different style of practice. It won't be the same. Things are going to come up.
Yeah.
Things aren't going to work. You're going to be stressed. And it's how you have different tools to deal with that, whether that's, coaching with someone like yourself, Billy, or finding some sort of pillar to lean on, because it's going to happen. And when
Yeah.
we get caught in the moment, that's where I feel like a lot of unnecessary stress comes up.
Yeah.
So they're my 3 points.
I love them. I love them. Are you finding more and more so that it's about building resilience, isn't it? Because
Yes.
like it's once again, like, and Chris and I are going to try and tie things back to, past episodes, etc. So we have something that you can build upon. But that sort of dopamine fix, that sort of, like gratitude, right? That sort of
Yep.
not gratitude, that sort of gratification right now. We
Yep.
want results now. We don't want to wait. And then what happens is that we don't have that ability to build resilience. Where do you see some of those challenges, but also like in your experience, what can we do to overcome some of that sort of barrier when it comes to resilience of, look, I want results now. And then on the flip side of that, you've got the sort of the parent slash, principal owner that says, well, back in my time, like, I had only one leg and I had to, walk through the snow. So like there's, or maybe that was my parents, like, they kind of give me the whole sense,
Yeah, it's a great point, and this is where I find my passion for it is being in the middle and bridging the gap.
Yeah.
And what I say, if I'm in between and I'm sitting down with an owner and an associate, I recommend to both to meet in the middle because
Mm.
both sides can be argued. And I've sat there, I've been a part of it, I understand it from both sides.
Yeah.
My number one solution to this is starting these type of conversations in the recruitment phase. And this has to come from the owner a lot of the times, is actually sitting down your future associate
Mm.
and not selling them the dream and actually going through, hey, we do a lot here and we do a lot of things really well. But here's some of the things that I feel like are going to be a challenge for any associate coming on. And I'd
Yeah.
love to share them with you now so that
Yeah.
we don't get 6 months down the track and you find out.
Yeah. Yeah.
And this is vice versa. I say to associates, you're not perfect. None of us are. We all have strengths and weaknesses. So if you can give the gift of telling your future owner,
Mm.
hey, I really suck at XYZ. and I really need some support here. I had someone last week talking about how they're very nervous when it comes to community engagement. It's just
Yeah.
not in their personality. And
Yeah.
I said to them, hey, let's sit down with the owner and let's discuss this to bring it up. And then
Yeah.
you can decide on if you're wanting to progress forwards on their response. And I was in the conversation. The owner expressed it. I mean, sorry, the associate expressed it. The owner was great. The owner shared about how when he first got out in his first year, he was petrified. Like he hated going through those, awkward conversations, the fear of rejection. And he was actually able to break it down and show the associate that they're not going to be grenaded into,
Mm.
walking down the street just by themselves. The owner's going to be there and going to
Yeah.
show him and guide him.
Yeah.
And this is a great example of both parties coming together in that recruitment process, so that there's expectations on both sides. Because at the end of the day, I think a lot of associates need to take more ownership around their associateship and not just
Mm.
blaming owners, but also if you're an owner listening, you've got to take more responsibility on if the associate isn't working out, that maybe things should have been said in the recruitment phase, or maybe part of the training or the check-ins should have been
Yeah.
better in
Yeah.
some sort of way
Yeah.
too. I'm not
Yeah.
afraid to say that. I've been in some
No.
very interesting conversations,
Yeah. You
Billy,
might
but
you might get some tomatoes thrown at you now.
yeah, well, it's happened already, but
Yeah.
I say to both parties, and I say, look, our goal here is creating a great practice for the owner and for the chiropractor.
Yeah. Yeah.
That's the goal. I'm here just to find the goal. And
Yeah.
if we both can take ownership on that, and that's more so like associates thinking like an owner, taking responsibility, so much of the stress is
Yeah.
taken away.
Yeah.
Like and I've got a question for you actually. Within your coaching realm or your experience, how much energy is spent on like interpersonal conflict, or things happening within the teams that could be spent on growth or
Yeah.
fun? What's your experience with that?
Oh goodness. So look, all right. I have a sort of analogy where it's like downstream situation problem is an upstream solution, okay, or a process. And that is that.
Ooh,
And so often what happens is that when we get to the when we have to have these uncomfortable conversations, and when we get to these situations which are challenging, um, more than likely it's a downstream situation that could have been fixed upstream, right? And so
tell me
in the
more.
same way that in the recruitment area, you always talk about hire the person, not the role. Like,
Yeah.
don't just kind of hire the person because they list off all the things on their CV. Really look and investigate that person. And so um, like I had this conversation very recently with a client of mine, and that is that what happened was that they'll ask me like, oh my gosh, like I'm finding it difficult with my associate because that in the beginning it's kind of like that sort of parent that provided all the cool things. It's like I did a whole lot of Facebook ads for them, I did all this stuff, I paid all this stuff, and it worked and everything else, right? But then like we can't have that constantly happening because we looked at the numbers and lots of new clients, but the churn, or the conversion
Yeah.
rates weren't very good, right? So he was asking me the question about like, so what do I do and everything else, and I was like, look, the challenge is like you're not the only person. So many chiropractors keep their associates with training wheels for too long. All right. Like just take those training wheels off. Or actually don't even allow them to have training wheels. Right. And have that honest conversation. Have that upstream conversation. Have that upstream situation in training
Mm,
where you let them know that, look, yes, marketing and outside paid or organic or whatever you do is really important, but you can't outmarket bad communications. You
yeah.
can't outmarket bad retention, bad conversions. You can't, no amount of money can outmarket, your inability to be able to, take someone from where they're at to on their journey through having good clarity over what you do, certainty about what you do, and then, good communication. Uh, and so the key thing I sort of say is that like you can avoid a lot of that stuff by having things set up in the beginning, So
Yeah.
having the
Yeah.
uncomfortable conversation in the beginning. So, Chris, like just letting you know that I want to really develop you into an amazing chiropractor, into an amazing business owner, and hopefully someone that can aspires to be like me or to do something exactly like what I've done. That is, have my own business. A big part of that is to not have you on training wheels. A big part of that
Yeah.
is to not like handhold you all the way. It's easy especially for you guys, and when I say you guys, I don't mean sort of like everyone, but like, it's easy for associates to kind of have that lack of resilience and that sort of dopamine fix where I just want to have something right now. Okay.
Yeah.
Look beyond that. It goes back to having a good contract, good employment contracts, whatever it is you have, everything that's legal, that supports both sides as well. That's ultimately important. And I think that answers your question, hopefully.
Yeah.
But the kicker is, and I'm sure that anyone that listens to this podcast that's a client of mine, I've mentioned this to them before, that it's great what we do because we're a small business, and even
Yes.
even if we have like multiple staff and maybe multiple sites, we're still small in comparison to like Telstra or Apple,
Correct.
whatever it is, right? We're a small business. So it's great because it's great to have that culture. It's great to have that sort of friends and connection with your small team. But when things go bad, we can't hide. If I'm part of Telstra and I have a bit of a stoush or a bit of a disagreement with someone, a manager, I can go to my cubicle and I can like sort of not sort of speak to them. I can avoid them at the coffee machine, etc. I can still do my work. But if you're the chiropractor, I'm the associate, and
Yeah.
we have a CA, it's a small business. Anything that doesn't work, like it's amplified and we can't hide. So we really do need to spend that time to make sure that we have processes in place, we hire well, we have great agreements, and all the things that you spoke about. And
Yeah. So when you're saying that they can't hide, do you mean like the next day you're turning up and if you're having a disagreement with the CA, you have to
well,
work with
yeah,
them?
it's uncomfortable, isn't it? Like
Yeah.
it's like I have to rock up to work.
Yeah.
Yeah. It's a difficult situation because of that double-edged sword. It's great because we're a small organization where when we're quick and nimble, we're able to have great relationships, we can
Yes.
be friends, etc., because we have that close proximity. But it doesn't afford us that element of distance, and that is that if something does happen, there's nowhere to hide. So you really do need to spend time and work and make the effort to build those relationships and to foster them as well. Yeah.
Yeah, I couldn't agree more. And a
Mm.
word that comes to mind from you sharing that is, having those tough conversations is expectations.
Yeah.
I had an owner that was generally just like, hey, we do nothing online. If you're going to join us, we don't do any online marketing. All of
Mm.
our marketing is through, old school ways of community engagement, some newsletters, and they were just upfront with the
Yeah.
associate. And the associate knew that taking this position, they couldn't rely on that. So they had to do different things to generate growth. And,
Mm.
they're 4 months in now and they're really enjoying it. But if
Yeah.
they spoke to one of their friends who's maybe getting all these different things, then they might go back to their owner and go, oh, hang on a second, my
Mm.
friend over here is getting this, and this. And then that causes issues within their associateship. But the owner did something fantastic. Like before he went to hire, we sat down and we were talking about, okay, look at the strengths and weaknesses of the associateship and let's let the associate know. So there's no surprises. So I
Yeah.
really like having those tough conversations as soon as they come up. It means it doesn't fester. So I
Yeah.
couldn't agree more.
Nice.
Yeah.
Great. Great conversation. So, Chris, as we all know, with the Action Over Ideas podcast, we have a bit of a structure at the end, and that is we want to make sure that people are taking action, stopping or at least reducing some of their sort of beliefs or limiting beliefs and barriers and obstacles, and then providing some sort of success metric around that. So, for you, when it comes to helping associates, think more like owners and to help use that as a vehicle for them to build a thriving practice, what should something happen in their life to maybe to reduce that situation, and what can they start doing?
Yeah, I'm gonna start with what they should start doing as it
Okay.
comes to me right here, and it's different to what we had down on the notes. Just it's
Yeah,
just manifesting right now.
that's great. No, 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 no.
um, I'd love more associates to start taking responsibility over their careers, and then I'd also love for owners to start taking more responsibility for their associateships.
Yeah.
If both parties take responsibility, then the only path way forwards is forwards, and the only
Yeah.
path. You get what I mean when I was saying
Yeah. Yeah.
that. And it doesn't matter because I'm also dealing with a lot that maybe for the last 6 months there's been lots of issues and it's about to break down. Like
Mm,
the party's about to split. And I say to people that we can just put pause on the past, and if both parties come together and go, if I'm the owner and I'm just like, hey, you know what, Billy, I made some mistakes through the start. I had the contract wrong, or I did the wrong type of training, and that led to some issues. I own that. And
yeah.
then the associate comes up and goes, you know what? I wasn't putting in as much work as I should have in the first 3 months, and that probably caused me to not grow as much, which put a strain on the business.
Yeah.
And if both parties come together, then we can move forwards. Because
Yeah.
at the end of the day, a lot of the times, it's the responsibility of both, and everyone's equal with their contribution. And this is my
Yeah.
favorite saying. I say, hey, you both signed the contract.
Mm,
You both agreed to this. Like,
yeah.
we can't sugarcoat that. You both agreed. So if we can take ownership, and you're saying before about tomatoes being thrown at me, it happens all the time because
Yeah.
I'm adamant on creating a fair exchange between
Yeah.
both. So
Yeah.
I want
Love it.
people to start taking
Yeah.
ownership. What's your
Yeah.
thoughts?
Yeah, absolutely. And that kind of ties back to our last episode when I mentioned the book by Daniel Pink, Drive, and he talks about the three drivers for people to like really have success in their role and to love what they do. And that's obviously having purpose,
Yeah.
having autonomy, and then mastery. And I just think even just our conversation around associates thinking more like owners like understanding where their associates at and then where we can all both meet. I think those three areas are really important. That is that,
Yes.
like, that the purpose is so important. Making sure that you connect that purpose to your associate, what they want to achieve, but it has to obviously be aligned with where the practice wants to go, and that element of autonomy that certainly in the beginning there'll be times and there'll be certainly lots of areas where there isn't that autonomy because there needs to be that training, there needs to be that skill set to be developed, but to also understand that and to put the trust. I mean, that's the reason why we want that. It's kind of like, if we want to have freedom of the ability to go on a holiday and freedom of the ability
Yes.
to do something and have our associate take care of the practice, we also need to have that ability to provide autonomy for them as well, and then that
Love that.
mastery. That mastery aspect is I think super important and vital, because it's something that can be promised early on in the contract and early on in the relationship. Do we provide it on an ongoing basis? It's like any relationship. If it doesn't matter whether it's like a relationship with your partner, a relationship with friends or peers, colleagues, your
Yes.
associate, that it's an ongoing thing. You have to put in the effort, you have to put in the time, and that it can't just be lopsided. You can't just be, you know what, we're just going to do a lot of it now, and then hopefully that you've got that, and then we can just go smooth sailing. It needs to be mastery over a long period of time. Yeah.
Yeah, accountability is very
Yeah.
important there as well for both parties to follow
Yeah.
through.
Nice.
That's brilliant.
Yeah.
My stop is actually what you just said. It links into Daniel Pink's book. So I love that. Is I was going to say, I recommend or I invite owners to stop thinking that their associates have the same purpose as them
Mm,
and that their associates want to be micromanaged. In the beginning, they probably need some micromanaging to help get up on their feet, but
yeah.
no one likes that long term. So I
Yeah.
would really invite owners to stop that, and to take the time to actually sit down once
Mm,
every quarter and go, hey, Billy, how we've gone the last quarter? What's some of your goals leading into the next quarter? How has your purpose changed? Because it evolves like as
yeah.
we get through things,
Yeah.
and always having that front of mind so that as the owner, if you can serve your team then serves the community or your
Yeah.
patients coming in.
Yeah. Yeah.
So that's my recommendation on the
Yeah.
stop.
Yeah.
Anything to add?
I'll give you one more, and that is to stop having too many meetings, and having more purpose and intent around things. So what I mean by that is absolutely there needs to be every quarter like a really big get together so we can sort of look at what's going on, and annually also have a really massive sort of like team building issue. But I don't think you need every week to have like a half hour, 1 hour meeting one on one, because I think that you end up sort of, what do we talk about? All right. But have smaller things that allow us to be on purpose and have more intent. So even if it's an email that the associate sends to the principal or the owner, on a Monday and then on a Friday where it's my intentions for the week. So what do I want to achieve? What are my goals? What are the 3 action steps that I need to implement in order for me to reach my goals? Who are the people that need more, need a conversation, people I need some more love and care in the practice, etc. All that kind of stuff. And then on the Friday, you could send another email and have a reflection as to, great, I had 50 on the books and I end up seeing 60. Great, what were the wins? And so those things, having less in-person meetings that can sometimes be a little bit overwhelming, because we end up, once again, that whole thing about that we're a small organization, like you end up talking to people anyway. So, but having more intention and purpose around how we actually communicate, and having a purpose around our meetings and our communications and connections.
Yeah, love it. Creating more action
Yeah,
over just the
and that could be a success metric as well. It's how do we reduce the necessity to have long-winded meetings, but have sort of more sort of connections, more things that allow us to be more intentional and have more action steps. Yeah.
Oh, I like that. I like that. So the metric is around not just, how many meetings are we having? It's about, well, what actually comes from those meetings? What's the action step? What's I like it. I think that could be very useful. So a lot of people listening, because at the end of the day, if you have 30 meetings, but they only get one thing done, or you could have one meeting and get 10 things done. Yeah. Everyone would prefer to do the one meeting and 10 things.
Yeah. Yeah.
Love it. That's awesome, Billy. Wow.
Awesome. Cool.
That was chocker full.
Chock full. All right. Well, thank you very much for listening to us.
Yeah. I hope they can hear the passion that comes from everything that we say.
Yeah. And if you've got tomatoes to throw, then just aim them at Chris. Yeah. All right. Well, let's wrap it up here. Well, thank you, everyone. We love your feedback. So first of all, if you have any feedback, any questions, let us know, connect with us, like and subscribe to our podcast. Let us know how we're doing, and we'll catch you for the next episode. See you next time.
See you next time, guys.
That's a wrap on today's episode of the Action Over Ideas podcast. If something you heard today made you think, that's awesome, but thinking isn't enough, pick one thing from today's conversation and do something with it this week. If this episode added value, share it with a fellow practice owner who needs to hear it. And we'll see you next episode. Decisions first, results follow.